So the anti-heretic made a video. It was a bad video. And in it, he made three main points. And let's go over them. One, he says, many minorities are anti-affirmative action because they don't need a handout and they don't want people thinking that they got a handout. Okay, I can touch my toes. Data on this actually exists, so here's some of that data. What we can see is that blacks and Hispanics support affirmative action a lot more than whites. And this support has been increasing over time. Okay? The anti-heretic doesn't bother looking up data, but instead gives anecdotes of people he works with who oppose affirmative action. I guess assuming that they are representatives of blacks and Hispanics in America, when the fact that they're working there is prima facie evidence that they are not. And so while it's possible that their views on affirmative action could represent those of all other blacks and Hispanics, this isn't something that can be safely assumed, because we know that in at least one aspect of their life, they are different from the median black or Hispanic. And moreover, the anti-heretic himself certainly doesn't represent the political views of all white people. The median political view of a white person is certainly far to the quote-unquote right or conservative end of the spectrum in U.S. politics than he is. So why would he make the same kind of assumptions with a small segment of blacks and Hispanics? The second point he makes is that we use stupid categories like race to do stupid things legally, like hate crimes. A crime is a crime. We don't understand all the ramifications of what we are saying. If we weren't sitting here saying that races are real and these people are inferior, then we wouldn't have people trying to combat that by making laws. Okay, first off, inferior is value judgment. Okay, women are shorter. Does gender height realism entail that a claim that women are inferior? You can think that if you want or not. It's not a question that has an answer. Okay. Second off, this thing here, this theory is a proclamation. The anti-heretic gave no evidence of this. And while I haven't done an exhaustive study on racial consciousness, we can look at countries that do have hate speech laws. Australia, Belgium, Holland, France, Germany, Britain, Iceland, Ireland, Norway, and Sweden. Now, all these countries don't have affirmative action programs to the same degree that the United States does, but then again, they don't have large blocks of blacks and Hispanics lobbying for them. If the whites were in charge of the United States policy, affirmative action would not exist. But another problem is that support for affirmative action has been increasing in the United States for as long as it has been measured, according to both the Pew paper and the Gallup paper I'm using here. Assuming opposition to interracial marriage is a reasonable proxy for racial consciousness, then we can say that as racial consciousness has fallen, support for affirmative action has risen, which is the exact opposite of what the anti-heretic would predict. And if you wish to criticize my use of support for interracial marriage as a proxy for not having racial consciousness, okay, that's a criticism there. But please recall that the anti-heretic provided no data for his claim that if the bigots just went away, brown people wouldn't support things like affirmative action, hate crime laws, and hate speech laws, and all those sorts of things. Fourth point he made, and this is just him being petty, he says that I should have answered his question about whether or not all minorities supported affirmative action faster. And then he played a clip of me trying to battle through his filibustering and gaslighting. But I answered his question. I answered the question in the comment. I answered the question here. And I guess the anti-heretic at first thought that I was trying to convey that 100% of all blacks and Hispanics supported affirmative action, and then tried to say that I was conceding it by admitting that that was not the case or something, when I never said that and never meant that. You'd have to be insane or just retarded to actually believe that. Or the anti-heretic is just being dishonest. So either he's super stupid, or he's dishonest by thinking that I was trying to convey that. I think he's dishonest. Right? I don't think he's that stupid. I think he's stupid, but I don't think he's that stupid. But anyway, I actually did answer his question. He never answered mine, which was, when will blacks and Hispanics stop having majority support for affirmative action? And I'm talking about a date range here, 2030, 2050, maybe say 2045 to 2055. That's a 10-year, net that it has to land in. And either he won't answer that, or he'll give some lame non-answer like "when the racists go away," or some other inane qualifier. This hypothetical harmonization of the races that will occur when us white bigots go away, that has never happened, and currently the opposite appears to be happening. And that's one of his hypotheses. That's his hypothesis. Another hypothesis is that as people like me have declined in proportion of the population, support for things like affirmative action, hate crime, and hate speech laws will increase, as they have. And that's what's going on. And this is because these things aren't actually a response to any real threat, but are more of a result of group polarization and political fads and wanting to be more progressiver than thou, right? I'm more progressive than you, so I'm going to hold escalating radical views. And white privilege now gives the ability for people to escalate their progressivism even further and start to be outright, support laws that attack whites outright because white privilege, right? And so white privilege serves that social function. And that's my hypothesis. And the data here supports my hypothesis. Certainly the matter is nowhere near settled, but the preliminary data looks good. The anti-heretic plan of laying down and spreading it and screaming at Republicans who aren't spreading them wide enough, or heaven forbid, people like me who don't spread them at all, so far has produced the opposite of what the anti-heretic should predict. It's as if his hypothesis was wrong.